Hey friends, and welcome back to the summer version of Pastor Paul's Midweek Bible Festival. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see all of you. Although I don't actually see you right now. You know what I mean. I'm here in my office at Agnes Scott, and we're going to do in the month of July, Pastor Paul's Midweek Bible Festival is going to cover my favorite book of the Bible. We're going to take 4 Wednesdays and look at the book of Job. Now, some of you were in Character Hall 3 years ago or so when I did a series on the wisdom literature of the Bible. And we hit on Job a little bit at that point. This month, though, I'm going to be off the lectionary and looking at the book of Job in 4 steps. The first step we're going to take tonight, do a little background on the book, and we're going to look at the first little part of it as well. That's kind of the plan. But what I like to do here is to remind you of the Old Testament. Okay? And what's happening in the Old Testament? What's happening in the Old Testament is this, right up at the front. Right? There's the whole creation thing. And the first family there, Adam and Eve, and things go south, right? Something happens. There's mistakes were made, kind of thing, right? There was relationships were in place. 3 of them, really, is how I think about it. 3 major relationships, and maybe a 4th as well. The 3 major ones are between God and humanity. Humanity and creation and God. So 3 different players, humanity, God, and creation. 3 different relationships. If you think of them as points on the triangle, you got the 3 points, and you got the 3 sides. The 3 sides are the 3 relationships between God, creation, and human beings, and the points are God, creation, and human beings. Those 3 relationships were all in good form. And then something happened. And they got broken. And if you go back, early part of Genesis, you can see just exactly how those 3 relationships are described as broken. Mistakes were made. And the rest of the Bible is about restoring that original communion between creation, God, and ourselves. That's kind of the big picture. And of course, there's us, there's God, and creation creates as sort of a 3rd player. But what basically happens is God tries to reconcile with us, and we kind of run away from that. Right? Sort of think about back in Judges, the book of Judges, when the people again did what was evil on the side of the Lord like 1,000,000 times, right? We try to get back to God, but we slip. We always are making mistakes. We're always doing evil on the side of the Lord. And then later on, in the books of Kings and Chronicles, all these kings of Israel, one after the other, and Judah, one after the other, doing what is evil on the side of the Lord. And you got these prophets, right? Telling us we're off track. And the reason everybody's miserable, and the reason everybody's doing so badly, and the reason that we're being overcome by foreign armies with foreign gods is because people are doing what's evil on the side of the Lord. In other words, what's happening in these chapters, in this part of the story of the Old Testament, and most of the story of the Old Testament is this. God's reaching out to us, but we do what is evil, and we get punished for it. Right? We get overrun by foreign armies. Right? We grind the faces of the poor into the dust. We do what is evil. Right? Why do we do what is evil? Why do bad things happen to us? Because we have forsaken the covenant. We have turned away from Yahweh. turned away from the true God. We have done what is evil, and the consequences are all through the Old Testament. Bad things happen over and over. So, what you can see in a huge part of the Old Testament is reward and punishment. Right? That's what the prophets are telling us. That's what Isaiah is telling us. That's what Ezekiel is telling us. That's what Joel and Amos are telling us in their own ways. You have to return to the covenant. Return to the ways of the Lord, and you will be blessed. And if you're not being blessed, that's because you're doing what is evil in the sight of the Lord. Reward and punishment is a fundamental rule that underlies the entire narrative part and the prophetic part of the Old Testament, which is a lot of it. Reward and punishment. Jeremiah, all the rest of the prophets, telling us to return to the ways of the Lord, and the Lord will restore our fortunes. If we do good, we'll get good. If we do bad, we'll get bad. That's why Israel suffers. Okay, so you see that clearly, I hope. Reward and punishment on the national scale. Okay, pigeonhole that. Keep it in mind. Reward and punishment on the national scale. Now, it also occurs on a smaller scale. If you look at if you think of it this way, we have the narrative part of the Old Testament, right? I'm not going to recount it. I've just sort of gone over a little bit. You know the basic story. Underneath all that, reward and punishment. But there's part of the Bible that doesn't tell that story. Rather, there's part of the Old Testament that doesn't tell that story. There's another part of the Old Testament has a different role. Totally different flavor. Okay? Part of the Old Testament I'm thinking about is called the wisdom literature. And for us, Protestants, there's 3 books, kind of 3.5 books of wisdom. There's Proverbs, there's Ecclesiastes, there's Job, and the half is the book of Psalms, which contains some wisdom literature. Okay? Wisdom literature is not narrative. It doesn't tell a story. It tells us how to live. It tells us how to access wisdom, which in the Old Testament cosmology, the Old Testament view of the world, wisdom was an attribute of God woven into the cosmos, available to all. If you live your life according to wisdom, you can build beautiful things out of your life. You can have a good family. You can be wealthy, or at least you can survive. Good things will come to you if you access wisdom. This divine attribute woven throughout the cosmos. If we access it, good things happen. Wisdom literature is about wisdom. It's about that. It's about how to live. It's pragmatic. It's not as, in general, overtly theological as the rest of the Bible. It's a little more this worldly as opposed to otherworldly. It's how to. It's pragmatic, like I said. That's the wisdom. Again, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Job, and part of Psalms. Now, of these books, we're going to not worry about Psalms for today. Let's just put Psalms on the shelf. Okay, there's wisdom poetry in there. Let's just put that on the shelf and think about Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. In fact, let's put Ecclesiastes on the shelf too. I'm not going to worry about Ecclesiastes. Okay, that's a whole different discussion in and of itself. Okay, let's just look at Proverbs first. Okay? Proverbs is garden variety, standard issue, sort of commencement speech kind of wisdom. And it agrees with all of the rest of Scripture. That is, it agrees with the narrative part of the Old Testament. All this divine punishment, divine reward, follow the law, follow the covenant, live according to the covenant, good things happen. Reject the covenant, you get overrun by foreign armies. Bad things happen. Bad religions start showing up. Okay? If you do good, you get good. That's the underlying morality of the narrative part of the Old Testament in general, generally speaking. That's also the explicit wisdom of Proverbs. If A, then A. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. Whatever happens, if you do, it's going to come back to you. So what I'm trying to say is the book of Proverbs basically takes that underlying logic of the whole narrative part of the Old Testament and puts it into this condensed kind of maxims, formulas, and makes it simple and explicit. And also in Proverbs, it doesn't apply to the nation as a whole, but to individuals. But the same basic logic applies. You do good, you get good. If A, then A. Listen to these two verses, straight out of Proverbs. This is really standard Proverbs stuff here. Proverbs 1, 33 to 34. Check it out. Waywardness, see if I can get my words right. Waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to the Lord will be secure and will live at ease. Listen to that again. You do good, you get good. Waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to the Lord will be secure and will live at ease. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. If A, then A. And then also in chapter 13, verse 21, misfortune pursues sinners, but prosperity rewards the righteous. Can't get any simpler than that, folks. That's the logic on the personal, individual level and on the national level. Misfortune pursues sinners, foreign armies, foreign gods. But prosperity rewards the righteous. You want Israel to be healthy and wealthy? Follow the commandments. Attend to the covenant. Do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. Pretty simple. Pretty simple mathematics there. Okay? That's wisdom. Standard issue, wisdom. Like I said, commencement speech wisdom. It's basic. It's what you tell the kids when they're growing up. Right? Well, it's not always true, is it? I mean, really, is it? In direct contradiction to the wisdom of the Old Testament, both on the national and on the personal scale of Proverbs, stands two books, Job and Ecclesiastes. We're going to look at Job today. What Job says is not if A, then A. Job does not say if you do good, you get good. It directly contradicts that. Okay? And it reflects a minority view. Okay? You know, you got Proverbs, what you tell the kids, right? Job lives 2 doors down, right? And that's the person you warn the kids about. Don't go talk to Job because he's kind of cranky. He's kind of a curmudgeon. He's going to tell you stuff that's kind of weird about how life actually is. Okay? So that's the situation. So that is where Job belongs in the big picture. I'm a big picture guy. So I start with the big picture. There you go. Okay. All right, so I want to say a little bit about the book itself. It's a story, and it's poetry. Now, unlike a lot of the Old Testament, it is not located in any particular historical time. Okay? There's no clear historical setting. It's not like in the year of King Uzziah, whatever, in the third year of King whatever. Okay? Doesn't happen that way. It's intentional. I'll get back to that in a second. The characters in Job are non-Israelites. So it's not set in any particular historical time. These characters are not Israelites. It's not clear where some of them are actually from. And not only that, but it's located in a land called Uz, or Uz. However you like. I'm not sure which one it really is. U-Z is how it's spelled. U-Z. Okay. Which is not really clear where Uz is. It's somewhere out in the east, maybe northern part of Arabia. We're not real clear where it is, but that's kind of the point. Job is a kind of morality tale. And the authors of Job don't want there to be a whole lot of distractions. This is like, Israel goes to the theater. That's what Job is. Job is Israel goes to the theater. And it's an over 18 show. It's not for the kids. It's for the grown-ups. Israel goes to the theater. And the story is missing all these details. Okay, like who were these people historically? Where were they from? Where was this story happening? All that stuff is left out on purpose. Because the point of the story is not that it's an historical, factual, literal thing that happened. Like if you had a video camera, could you have recorded this at some point? The answer is no. It's theater. It's removed from that in order to pull out the main points of the story. The main points, and to be honest, the main questions, which we'll get to in just a minute. Okay. The lack of detail and the fact that this is not historically couched anywhere, it's all intentional, because this is a sort of set aside kind of pure thing that is written in order to evoke questions and don't want anything distracting from those questions. So it's all on purpose. The emphasis is on the story and the questions it evokes. So I want you to think about the book itself, the text of it, as a sandwich with a couple really thin slices of bread and a whole lot of meat between them. The two slices of bread are written in prose. Now, prose, all that means is it's not poetry. It's paragraphs, it's not lines. Okay, it's prose. The whole book is 42 chapters long. Okay, the first two chapters are prose, and the last chapter, 42, is prose. But chapters 3 to 41, it's all poetry. Dense Hebrew poetry. Okay? So you got 2 chapters of prose. You got how many? 38 chapters of poetry. And then you got 1 chapter at the end of prose. So it's a poetry sandwich with prose bread. You got the picture. That's the situation. Okay? That's the situation. What I'm going to do here is I'm not going to get into the text itself. I'm going to get into the text itself. I'm seeing we're nearing at about 20 minutes here. And if I get into the text itself, that'll be another 10 minutes. And I don't want to go that long. And I also don't want to ruin what's coming up. And I want to make these 4 different videos make sense sequentially. So what I'm going to do here is to sort of put out some questions out there that this book is going to address. Remember, I said that the point of the book is the questions it evokes. Okay, here are the questions. The first one is, why does God allow good people to suffer? That, friends, is a universal question. It's not unique to Israel. Every culture in virtually every time has asked that question. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do people suffer? People who are innocent. Suffering seems so arbitrary. Why is that? That's the first question. The second question is this: is God just? How's that for a question? Now, we assume God is just because God is good. And justice is good. In fact, justice is fundamental. It matters a lot to people. Human beings matters a lot. Justice matters a lot. Whether you use that word or not, justice matters. And what the writers of the book of Job are asking us, the question they are putting before us is God just? And if God, whether or not God is just, a secondary and related question is this: does God operate the universe according to the strict principle of justice? If God is just, and if God is omnipotent, right, all powerful, then we would think that God would operate the universe according to the strict principle of justice. Okay, so is God just? And whether God is just or not, or rather, maybe put it this way, assuming God is just, does God operate the universe strictly according to that principle of justice? Okay, and if it is operated according to justice, if the world does operate according to justice, then why does suffering happen? In particular, why does the suffering of Job happen? Job is a way of crystallizing the problem of suffering. Job as a character is used by the author to crystallize the question of suffering and the nature of God, and the nature of God's power to control the universe, and the nature of God's power to be just. Now, none of these questions are answered in a simple way, in a direct, sort of rational way. Okay, so you have to set yourself up for that with Job. If you don't like questions, if you're not welcoming of questions, if you're not able to stare a question in the face, honestly, Job is not the book for you. I'll give you that warning right up front. Okay? So, again, the questions. The fundamental one is, why do good things happen to bad people? That's related. Why good things happen to bad people is related to the book. But the question more directly asked is, why do bad things happen to good people? Question 2, is God just? Question 3, does God operate the universe according to the principle of justice? And number 4, if so, how can you explain suffering, and in particular, Job's suffering? This book is phenomenal. I have read it, I have written a book about it, and I still cannot get enough of it. I thought after I wrote that book, when was it published, 6 years ago, that I'd be done with Job. But friends, Job is not done with me. So I look forward to the next 3 weeks of exploring these questions with you. Hope you all are having a good week. Love you all. I'll see you on Sunday.